Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing great. Glad to be here.
Good. So we are here with Cheryl and her son Nathan, and they are our very first special guest on our podcast. So we're super excited to have you today. And I guess we can just start with how you met Dr. Varghese, because it's been a long time that you guys have had a relationship, and we'd love to kind of hear the story.
Yeah. Well, I met Dr. Varghese 10 years ago. Nathan was hospitalized with SIDS, and the head of neurology was told to put his best fellow on Nathan's case. And Dr. Varghese came in the room. That was
Why are you so surprised?
He was amazing. I mean, I have like a memory of a doctor coming in after we were released, and I had seen Sean and had our appointment. Like, everything looks good. He's 2 months old right now, and let's just see what happens. No one knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And the doctor came in later and was just like, "Yeah, he's never going to look at you. He's never going to know you. He's never going to do anything." And Sean was just like, and I was like, "I like him better than you."
Yeah.
So that was the start. And then when he was like, "I'm starting Think," I said, "I'm coming too."
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you followed him everywhere. So
I did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And he was one of our first patients in the Woodlands.
Yep. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about his condition. Just briefly, like what medical issues that he has and that you kind of deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah. So Nathan, when he left the hospital back in 2012, did not have all this medical equipment. He started just with his anoxic brain injury, which I kind of have to brag on you again, because so I met Sean in 2012, and then in 2014 we got a G button, and that was our first piece of medical equipment. And then after that, I kept feeling like something was wrong, like he couldn't breathe. But I had no pulse ox, I had no vent, I had nothing except the food pump. And Think had just opened, I believe, at that time. Mm-hmm. And I kept going to all my other GI doctor, PCP, and they're like, "He's fine. He's got strep throat. Here's some antibiotics. Oh, he's fine. You're overreacting." And finally got a swallow study, and he was aspirating. And not only aspirating from eating, but also aspirating from the button. And there came a day in March when I took him to his PCP, and she said, "He's fine. Just do neb treatments every 8 hours." And I said, "Something's wrong. I need more than neb treatments." And I called Think, because I had no other doctor who was listening to me. And Sean got on the phone with me and said, "I'm calling the ED. Go to the emergency room right now. I'm calling him, asking him to observe him for 24 hours. But you're probably going to be admitted." And you didn't even see him. Yeah. You're just over the phone hearing him. Okay. And we walk into the ER, and they were like, "Oh my God, thank God you're here." And I was like, "Well, yeah, my neurologist sent me." And they're like, "Smart neurologist, your son's in respiratory failure." Oh, no. And so that's when we got the vent. And then we just got the trach 2 years ago. So it's been it's been a medical journey. It's not like we started with everything. I've kind of had to learn as we go. But Nathan's main diagnosis is the brain injury from SIDS. But then because of the lung issues, he does now have a history of acute chronic respiratory failure. Mm-hmm. And then, but everything really just stems from the brain damage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The anoxic brain injury.
Yeah, even that story, like you talking about, Sean, you told Sean because no one else would listen. I feel like that's the basis of like why Think was built to begin with. And like what Sean always says, it's built on moms, and you have to listen to the moms because, dads too, but usually it's the moms that are the caretakers. And usually something's wrong, right? And just having someone listen to you and actually do something with that, that's super important. So.
Yeah, and from the beginning, it's not just about treating seizures or the respiratory issues. It's, how can we support you? Mm-hmm. And you walking in the office and me asking what's going on. Yeah. And then just listening. So I know you're going to drive the appointment, and we focus on what's bothering you or concerning you the most of the time. And I think us trusting each other is really what everything's built on.
Well, and trust is the biggest part. If I can't trust my kid's doctor, then I can't trust anybody, because, you know, like he's alive today because of doctors. You know, we're frequently in and out of the hospital for other things, thank God, not neurological, but, you know, other issues. And it's such a blessing that when I have doctors who listen, and there's a dramatic difference between doctors who listen and doctors who don't listen. So I don't talk much to the doctors who don't listen.
Yeah. You're like, well,
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're, you know, obviously grateful for your support over the years. And I guess we would like to, I think a lot of viewers or people out there would love to know, like, what is life like just on a daily basis? What are the struggles that you deal with, or obstacles? I know there are probably many.
Or what should we talk about that no one talks about? Or that you would love if the world would be more aware of it, so that we could come up with better solutions?
I mean, I think there's kind of two main things. Number one, I think a special needs parent, especially one who has a medically fragile child, is always going to have that fear deep in their gut of, am I missing something? Is something wrong? Today, he's great. Tomorrow, what's going to happen? And just to know that it's okay to talk about that, and it's okay to say, hey, are you doing okay today? Because, you know, some days I'm like, yeah, I'm great. And other days I'm like, I don't know I might be in the hospital tomorrow. Like, I was talking with somebody else, and I was just saying, like, I have a hospital bag packed in my closet always. And if I even think, like, you're kind of acting a little funny, we're going to the doctor for a checkup, that bag goes in my car, because I want to have my stuff with me if we end up at the hospital. You know, it's and it can be on a dime. You know, it can be, I'm fine one minute, I'm not the next. And I think it's something that people are scared to talk about sometimes, or ask, like, are you okay? It's like, yeah, I'm okay today. But tomorrow, ask me again, because I might get a different answer. But that's just life, you know, and that's the life that I deal with. And I know other parents do too. I'm very blessed to have a best friend. And actually this weekend, she and I were talking, and she's just kind of like, my kid's acting off, you know? And I was like, just keep me updated, you know, like, what do you need? You know, you send you some Starbucks. You need, do you need just call and vent? We can do that too, you know, and that's okay. So there's always something that having a listening ear, and which is think has a huge listening base. Does that sound right? Like, you know, that's what's needed, not only in a doctor's world, but also just in the lives of people to be able to do that. Besides listening, it's okay to ask questions. Like, and sometimes that question comes loose, but I work. So I work, I'm an office manager, and he comes with me, and it's at a ballet studio, dance studio. And so he will come with me to work. And it's been so sweet to see some of these little 3 and 4-year-old girls go like, why is he in a chair? And I'll say, because he's too lazy to walk, you know, and you know, kind of laugh, and they'll be kind of like, what? And I'm just like, well, he hurt his brain, so he can't remember how to walk, but that's why we pray for him. And, you know, and try to, depending on the age of the child, depends on kind of how in depth I go with older kids. They might be like, well, what's wrong with him? And then I usually see the parents being like, don't say that. And I'm like, no, it's okay. And I'm like, well, you know, when he was a baby, older children, I'll say he actually died for a while. And they'll be like, what? And I'm like, but he's alive now because God gave him back to us. And we're very blessed with that. And he, you know, and they'll just be like, wow. And, you know, and it's so sweet because I have several children who just come up to him every week and they're like, hey, Nathan, we're so glad to see you. And he'll look at them and smile or close his eyes and be like, I don't want to talk to you today. But he's got his own personality. He's just because he can't talk does not mean he's not there. And
he's been there's been times I've seen him happy with me. I've seen him mad with me, irritated with me, looking at me like I'm crazy. I definitely have all the emotions of Nathan. That's for sure. So even if I don't remember something, I can just tell he's like, I've seen him roll his eyes at me. Hey, you're not the first person. So I like that. And kind of going off of what you said, one of the things that we need to do is checking on each other. So, we have 50,000 patients. So what does that mean in terms of how many parents we have? It's a huge number. Yeah. So one of the things that I say we need help with, and I think I've talked to you about this before, is getting the parents together, at least having each other's contact information, to where if you're not feeling okay, call somebody that can help you. Yeah. Or just checking in on somebody that just had a new diagnosis. Yeah. Checking on them, every 3 months. What do you need? Yeah. I know this is hard. So I would love for you to help with that moving forward.
For it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's something I kind of feel like I've started when we're in the hospital. Mm-hmm. I feel like the old lady now in the hospital because, I'm like, my kid's 10, and everybody else is like, my kid's 2, and I'm like, that's nice. But I'll talk to them, be like, so what's the diagnosis? Oh, well, my kid just got a trach. Okay, you know what? You can handle this. I promise. Are you sure? And I actually had somebody call me at 2:00 in the morning saying, I can't suction my kid. What do I do? And I was just kind of like, okay, step 1, 2, 3, and then call this emergency number. And, I'm not a doctor, but I can try to help you navigate home. Because sometimes that's hard, especially going from the hospital to home. Mm-hmm. That's the biggest jump. You don't have, at-home nursing can be a blessing. I have 2 nurses currently who work 2 days a week. And it's great when they're there because then I can kind of I don't want to say take off the Nathan hat because it's like, I don't have to think about him all the time, but I'm still thinking about him even when the nurse is there. Right. I actually had a nurse one day, went to work, and an ambulance drove by my workplace. And I live 3 blocks from the dance studio. And it's in the direction of my house. Now there's 100 houses between the dance studio, my house over here, but I still just had this
panic moment.
Wait, what? Yeah. No, it's okay. She would have called me first. She would have called me. Here, I'm calling. Hey, is everything okay? And she's like, yeah, he's sleeping. Everything's great. I was like, okay, thank you. I just needed to know, and so you have these moments still, no matter what. And so checking in sometimes.
It's crucial.
Yeah, that support system is very important for sure. Well, I guess, what would you say, I know Nathan has siblings, right?
Yes.
3. What is life like for them? How is it different? Maybe, do they help with him? Or do they just Mom, that's on you?
No, they're required to help. They don't have a choice.
That's the right answer.
They're required to help. No. Last year, actually, Nathan was hospitalized with septic shock for the first time. And when it came down to it, I knew he was getting sick. I thought I'd have time to drive him into the hospital. And so I ran to take a shower because I was like, can I at least wash my hair before going to the hospital? And while I'm in the shower, my husband's like, the alarm won't stop going off. And I, grab a towel, run out there. And he's sitting at 77. And so I yelled at at the time, 15-year-old, said, hey, he's now 17. But I said, do you remember how to bag him? And he was like, yeah. And I said, here's the Ambu bag, turning on the oxygen, let me get the shampoo out of my hair, and I'm back in here. And so got the shampoo out, came back in. I'm on the phone with 911, and he's just standing there bagging his brother, keeping him, breathing. And then, so he's done that for me a couple times. And even they all know how to suction. Mm-hmm. They all know how to trach suction. They all know it's hilarious. I'll be like, grab me the HME. And they'll be like, what? And I'm like, the little blue thing. And they're like, oh, okay, so they could seriously probably get like some sort of nursing license, I think, at this point, but they're all kind of like, no.
They have a lot of medical training for sure.
You know, I'm like, hey, Nathan's feed needs to be primed, so they're priming his feed and hooking him up to it and starting it.
They know
So
a lot.
they really do know
So
a
you
lot.
train them, or you have
I
the
train
nurse?
them.
Yeah,
I train them all, so they know exactly like what to do, how to help me, and you know, like, because with like the ambu bag, it's something where I'm like, I never want you to have to use this. However, in an emergency, I've had even my daughter, who's now 14, she's about to be 15. You know, like it wasn't an emergency, but I was like, hey, I need you to bag him for a second because I'm changing out some tubing and he's struggling. Will you please do that? And so she's standing there bagging him, and I'm like, it really just makes me kind of stop and look at my kids and go like, I am so blessed to like that you're not fighting me too much on this, because there is that like, can't I go be with my friends instead of doing this, you know, at times, which I do understand, and that's why I do really try. My daughter dances. My oldest son's graduating high school this year early, so he's worked very hard for that. And then I also have a 12-year-old son as well who is involved. He loves science and space. I really need to take him to NASA again. He would flip out, and he keeps talking about it. There you go. Okay, we're gonna do that. We'll do that. And so, anyway, I try to really make sure that they have their own identity too, though. It's not just, oh, you're Nathan's brother, oh, you're Nathan's sister, and it's like, no. You're Philip, you're Kat, you're Steven, you're your own person, you have your own interests. But if I need you, you're right there to help me.
Awesome.
Especially just grabbing, you know, he has a lot of equipment, so loading and unloading the car, it's like, y'all, everybody grab a bag. Okay, we're good, you know.
Good helpers.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, one of my most memorable moments was meeting your whole family when we came. You invited us to his birthday party.
Yes.
It was in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like, this is like, was it 2021 maybe?
Yeah, I think it was 2021.
And I was like, you know what? We need to go, because you had been inviting me for a while, and I hadn't made it out there. I'm like, I'm not letting her down this time. So we took both of our kids and Jacob, and it was a great time. It was your whole family, right?
Yeah.
And they're great, and they're really united.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun time.
It was.
In Belleville, right?
Time.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
All that land, it was fun.
Yeah, it was nice to get away.
Yeah, for
Just
sure. It felt like we were
out.
in the country, but I mean, I guess it kind of is the country, but
It is,
in
but
the city.
still we're in town,
Yeah.
so it was nice. So
Yeah.
that's why I love our place. It's a little vacation, even from
Oh, I loved it.
life, you know. So, but we, you know, like, and speaking of checking in on each other and everything, you know, when your sister calls you saying, "Hey, do you know what myclonic jerks are?" And I'm like, how the heck do you know the term myclonic jerks? And she's like, well, my kid's jerking. And so I looked on YouTube and I found this thing. And I said, send me a video. And she sends me a video. I was in the middle of Target when she sends me this video. And I'm watching my nephew have myclonic jerks. And I was like, oh my gosh. I said, have you seen a neurologist? You need to see a neurologist. And she's just like, well, I did. They told me he'd grow out of it. And I said, okay. There's this awesome neurologist I know. Sean is going to see you. And so I sent her here, and he'd been diagnosed with a rare genetic syndrome, and his sister, anyway.
Yeah.
My family's deeply involved with Think, I feel like, because
We're one family.
I know, that's
we are a
crazy.
family. Like,
We actually are one family.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I keep sending people over. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, you need a neurologist? Just go to Think. Think's the way to go. Do not pass go. Just go to Think.
Well, we appreciate that for sure. Yeah.
Well, okay, speaking as a parent, if I send a parent to you, what's the process of taking or listening to those parents, or what do you do?
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, if you send us a referral for a patient, then there's a couple different ways that we'll contact them. We have our contact center that we can give them the phone number, and they can reach out to the parent and then get their profile built, get them scheduled, or they can do an online request as well. So where they'll go online and request an appointment through our website. But either way, we'll get that patient scheduled, and based on where they are, they'll be placed with a clinician based on their location preference and then what they're being seen for. And then our evaluations are pretty similar kind of across the practice. So really important listening to the parent, right? Hearing the story, gathering the information as far as the history and doing an evaluation the day of the visit, and then making a diagnosis. But I think the most important thing is just the conversation of like counseling. What does this mean? How does this affect your life? What are some things that you need to know, potential, consequences or things that could happen based on this, and just providing that like support and reassurance of like, it's going to be okay. This is what it is, but we're going to help you navigate through that. And I think that's kind of the most important part of it, right? Because anyone can give a diagnosis. Well, maybe not anyone, but but a lot of people. It's that support and the counseling that goes into it that I think is what's important for Think.
Yeah, and the key for me is just put them in touch with us, whether it's text, Instagram, email, our website. Either Christina or myself, we're involved in the whole process. So if there's a referral that comes through and it says like Cheryl sent me or a patient sent us, we will get to it as soon as possible because we don't want to let them down, but we also don't want to let you down. So we're under a little bit more pressure to make it happen, which is okay.
Yeah.
That's what we like, right? So we talk about it amongst our team. What referrals came in? Are there any parents that sent one that was emergent or they really need help now? We'll follow up and make sure that they're on the schedule with somebody.
Yeah, I think we're usually very accessible compared to maybe some other doctors or practices. People text us all the time. They're like, hey, can you help me with my friend, he has a kid that needs to be seen. So we are happy to do that and, text and email, whatever. Like you said, Instagram, that's been a big one recently. Yeah. DMs on Instagram to get patients in. So yeah, we'll make it happen for sure.
And I feel like that kind of like leads into my next question, but that's why Think is different than most places. I mean, what makes Think different from any other neurologists out there?
Yeah.
I guess I can take that. The neurologists, especially here in Houston, it's a good team. The medical care in Houston is usually very good. So what makes us different and what do we want to do different is connect with parents. I want to know what's happening at home, what's happening with the siblings, what are you doing for fun, are you working? Like when you told me you're working, it made me so happy, right? And to know that you can take Nathan too made me even happier. And then I want to know who that employer is, because then I start following them because I start realizing the people in the community that actually say they want to help, they're actually doing it. What else? Like, how's school going? What are the barriers into getting kids into school?
He always asks the parents, like, when was the last time y'all had a date?
Oh, yeah. Like,
when did you have
how's
your
y'all's relationship going? And it takes work. It takes work to keep a marriage together. It's not an easy thing. I mean, it's probably easier for me than for her, but that's the truth, and I'll own it. But especially when you add in, disabilities or chronic care, there's so much focus that goes into the child or the adult, whoever. But I always remind my parents, like, don't forget about each other. That's what makes us different. Because I think if home is good, or school's going well, and we have common goals for the future, then medical care usually goes better. Yeah. Otherwise, if the world is falling apart around you, but the medical part we're trying to like push, it's like that's too uphill for us, right? So I think that's the big difference is we are going to ask those kind of interesting, weird questions of, hey, are you okay? I notice when a family or a parent comes in alone with a stroller and 10 bags and something falls, it really bugs me if somebody walks into my clinic, a parent walks into my clinic, and no one helps them. It doesn't happen, I think, very often, but you need to open doors. You need to offer help. So I think it's a matter of like offering the help to the parents that are coming here, because I know it wasn't easy to get everything ready at home and get to this clinic and find parking, and let's not even go into all that, right?
Parking.
I mean, yeah. So how you got here matters. Like, your financial situation matters. Relationships matter. Jobs matter. So I think us addressing all those things in the future is going to be what makes us really different, because it's not just about the medicine.
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully that answered. That was kind of long-winded, but
No, it makes sense to me.
yeah.
So when did you know you wanted to become doctors?
Oh
my gosh, for me,
That's a
since
good
I was
question.
like a toddler, I don't know, for as long,
Oh my God.
you
Oh
can
my
ask
gosh,
my
2-year-old.
parents. I literally was really young, and I would, like, I think all of us at some point, wanted to be a doctor, maybe, or a lot of people. But when you're young and you pretend, you're a doctor. But I really stuck with it. Like, my interest carried through all of my years of schooling. And then really, like, in high school is when you have to decide, like, is this really a career you want to pursue? And then using that as an opportunity to get volunteering in the medical field, and I joined some clubs, the Health Occupation Students of America.
I mean, she's like prototype student, okay? Like prototype.
But I loved it because we got to like go and shadow different specialties, and it was a good opportunity. So yeah, and then I was like, this is definitely something I want to continue to pursue, and so medical school residency and pediatrics was always interesting to me because I just love kids, and I feel like there's something about just no matter what's going on in a kid's life, they can just have this happiness or joy, or even if they're sad, right? It's just raw emotions, right? They're not. There's like not
No
a filter,
purpose.
right? It's just that's them.
There's no agenda.
Yeah. So I've just always loved pediatrics, and I stuck with it. So that's my story. Yeah.
Yeah, mine's a little different. I didn't really want to be a doctor when I was younger. I didn't really know what I just wanted to do well in school because that was the right thing to do, right? And when I got into high school and college, I was really interested in business administration, finance, marketing, economics. I love that stuff. So my background in college was actually business administration with some finance and economics. Wow. So, and I'm going to say something that's really interesting. And that's like what's happening in the world right now. It's a crazy world, and but it's very interesting to me because thinking about what's happening now in the next year, I can already plan for the next 10 years of what needs to happen financially or business-wise, thinking of where the trends are going, where's technology going, where is funding going. Yeah. But then, my parents are from India, and it is an important thing. Being a doctor is one of the aspirations of coming to America. So my parents came in 1980, and I was born in 81. I'm sure a glimpse in their brain was, I hope, a newborn in the hands, like, I hope Sean is a doctor, right? But because they want me to help others. I think there's so much respect in their background or in India about doctors, right? So when in college, I tried to become a doctor, and I told my mom, I'm going to try to become a doctor, but if I don't make it, I'm going to go to Wall Street, I'm going to go into finance. And one thing led to another, and I got into medical school at UT Houston, which is meant to be, which is how I met everybody here and met my wife, Christina. But yeah, I think, and I love it. I love being a physician. I really do think it's what I was meant to do. And we do it for the kids. I think working with children, nothing's impossible. Like, we can make anything happen. It's just in different ways. So I love that. But now I get to use my background of business, I think, and understanding on how to scale it and how to provide access to the U.S. And I always tell everybody, good medicine is good business. Don't make it good business is good medicine. It should be the other way around. So kind of just happened.
And then why child neurology?
And child neurology because my mentor, Dr. Ian Butler, and Pedro Mancias, Dr. Mancias, I met them during medical school. Dr. Mancias was assigned to me as my mentor, and it can't be by chance.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, do you want to start doing research at Shriners Hospital for kids with disabilities that can't afford care? So I started doing research with him, and it was about how some of the kids coming across the border couldn't move one side of their body, or one side of the body was smaller or didn't form all the way. And was that originating in the spinal cord, or was it genetic? So all this research I did with him, and I realized how happy Dr. Mancias was in his life. He was a good father, he was a good husband, and he's a great doctor. And Dr. Mancias was a happy guy. Dr. Butler is a happy guy. Was one of the first people, first child neurologist in Houston, and he was loving it every day. So like, if these guys really love what they do to this day, and their family life is going well too, it's got to be a good choice. So that's the only reason why I picked it. And then rest is history.
That's awesome.
I wouldn't choose it any other way.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's asked us that.
that's a good question.
Yeah.
I try.
Yeah, I don't think I told anybody. Yeah, but that's my ADHD too. You have to remind me of the question, right? Hey, I'll own it.
That's what we do. Anything else you've been wanting to know, or other questions?
I'm trying to think. I feel like there's something I thought of, and I was like, oh, I guess this.
I thought of something while you were talking, I think earlier, like traveling. Have you guys been able to take trips with Nathan? What is that like? Have you been on a plane with him, or is it really just driving places?
It's driving.
Okay.
That being said, we have driven. Before his septic shock episodes, we used to do 2-week trips where we went. He's been to what is that place called? Meteor Crater, Grand Canyon, San Francisco, Redwood Forest,
Yeah.
Salt Lake City, Great Salt Lake, Colorado, and then back down to Houston.
Okay.
And like we go on these. We've been to DC and West Virginia, and my husband just has like these epic trips, North Dakota, Mount Rushmore,
Wow.
and all this stuff. And I finally have gotten to the point in the last year where I said, I can't do this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because what happens is with all his stuff, we are there for one night and then we move on to the next place, which the other kids love it. So I'm always kind of like, honey, if you want to take the kids and go on like a trip, go for it. And Nathan and I will be here.
Aww.
And that'll be my vacation. And y'all will have fun, and it sounds like a win-win to me.
Yeah.
Hasn't worked yet, but
Let's make it happen.
yeah.
Yeah, well, it's gonna happen now.
Yeah.
So, but it's been fun. So last year we've started doing shorter trips just because he did have septic shock. He's had it 5 times in the past year. And so because of that, he's on a lot more medications. We're trying to be a lot more careful now about, obviously he still goes places. I'm like, I'm not going to keep you at home all the time because he likes being out and about.
Yeah.
He likes being with people and he likes seeing everybody. So I was like, I can't take that away from you. Yeah. So we have, let's see, where did we go last year? We went to Hot Springs, Arkansas. Mm-hmm. And so we spent 5 days up there. And then we have a trip planned in April, as long as he doesn't pull anything crazy, to go to Big Bend. So
nice.
Go to Big Bend for
Nathan,
a long weekend.
You got to behave.
I know.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
Gotta be
You got
chill.
this.
You got this, right? Be chill.
Have you ever been traveling and he's had to be hospitalized, or?
Thank God, no. Now, when we went to go through San Francisco, that trip, he almost did.
No.
Like, he was getting sick, and I remember, like, everybody's asleep in the hotel room, and I'm sitting out in the car with him, and the nebulizer is going, and I'm just like, I don't know any hospitals, and I don't really want to take my kid to a strange hospital and have to train everybody on what he can and can't have and what works and doesn't work. And so thank God his doctors called in an antibiotic, and I gave it to him, and he was recovered like that. Thank God. So because of that, I now always, whenever we go on vacation, I'm always like, can I have a powder form of the antibiotic that will most likely be what he needs?
Just in case, yeah.
And we just take it with us. And I'd say if we've done 5 trips, maybe 2 of those I've actually had to mix the antibiotic on. But so it's not a bad statistic. I have
So
to
you're
say.
like a pharmacist now compounding medication.
And you have extra Keppra.
Extra Keppra,
just in case.
got the Diastat and everything. It's like everything's right there.
Yeah.
Like that's not kind of the hard part about traveling because you got, okay, what do I need? Okay, we're going to be gone for 10 days. So 10 changes of clothes, enough diapers for each day, enough Chucks pads for each day, and all this kind of
G-tube feeds.
And oh my gosh, bring all the food with, bring all the bags, bring all the syringes and bring an extra G button. What if the G button falls out?
Yeah.
What if the trach, something happens with the trach and we need a different trach and we got to make sure we have the smaller size as well. And, it's always...
Yeah.
It's kind of funny when I did reach out to Big Bend, where are we staying? Alpine. I reached out to a place in Alpine just saying like, hey, we're coming, we're going to stay there. I have a medically fragile child. What's your cancellation policy?
Yeah.
Because, and they're like, 72 hours. And I was like, that's doable. And they're like, okay. By the way, we don't really have a lot of medical facilities around here. I don't know if you want to bring a medical fragile person. And I was like, it's just for 5 days. But, and thankfully with him, it's like, if I think something's kind of starting to go south, I'm like canceling everything, or going to the doctor for a checkup, which last May we did that. We were supposed to go to Hot Springs in May. And, Wednesday before we were the Friday before we were supposed to leave, I think it was, I took him to the doctor kind of like, I don't think something's wrong. And they were like, well, let's just go to the ER and we'll get some blood work and an x-ray done just because you can get faster in the ER than outpatient. And while we're in the ER, his blood pressure tanked and they're like, oh, by the way, he's septic and now he's going into shock. And I was like, you were smiling on the way over to the ER. like you knew what was going on, didn't you? You knew. You're like, I'm just waiting.
Oh my goodness.
I told you to take me. Yeah.
But like that hotel, so then I'm calling them, going like, yeah, I'm in the ICU with my kid, and they're like, we're canceling your room, no charge. And then we went and stayed there again, in the fall when we were able to go, and it was a great hotel. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. But that's something, people probably don't think about, right? You have to know the cancellation policy because what if you have to cancel last minute, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just thinking those extra steps ahead.
Yeah.
And then all of the supplies and everything you have to bring with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't just buy G-tube feeds at a grocery store.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Pedialyte and stuff that you could get by in if you needed to.
Yeah,
like there
emergency.
Are. But I give him a organic blend of stuff, so I like to be able to bring it with. So it's usually like the car's really full, really, and then like, oh, now we have all this room. Where did this go? Wait, that's where.
My parents and I, we had an 18-passenger van growing up because there were 4 kids. And my dad hated flying because he wants to be in control, so we drove everywhere. And that's just like not even having all the extra supplies and stuff, but there's so much stuff you have to bring if you're taking a road trip.
Yeah.
The 18-passenger van, you should look into that.
Yeah, probably need to. As long as it has a wheelchair ramp. That's why I need a wheelchair
get
accessible.
Get it retrofitted with that.
But no, we so what I also have done is because he has so much equipment is like it's like, okay, we're going for 2 weeks. We take 4 days worth of clothes, and every other place needs to have a washing machine. And so I'd be doing laundry on vacation every 4 days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like, wait a minute, why am I?
Why am I on vacation to begin with?
What are we doing here? What are we seeing over here?
Harder than being at home.
Is this worth it? Yeah. We should make a list of the best places to go.
Yeah.
That are the most accommodating, or even places that actually help.
Yeah.
It's got to exist. We just need to find those people.
Yeah. Find them. Get some people.
We'll do that.
That's a very good idea.
Good idea. Yeah, traveling. That's like, I can imagine.
One time when we were in the hospital about to leave, one of the doctors was like, can I just ask you a couple questions? Because they had all the students in the room.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, yeah, sure. And they're like, so when you travel?
Yeah.
And this is before he had the trach and everything, too. I mean, he had the vent, but not the trach. And so I was like, well, this and this. And then you got to make sure you have the extra face mask and this and blah, blah, blah and everything. And he turned to them and he's like, I don't want to hear another word from any of y'all complaining about traveling.
Yeah.
Because you just think of her.
Yeah.
It was great. And I had 2 students run after me. I would be like, so what medical degree do you have? And I was like,
probably could get a degree pretty easily at this point. Oh my goodness. You have a lot of knowledge. after all these years.
Street smart.
For sure.
We appreciate you. We're thankful that you trust us to talk to us and share your knowledge and your stories with the world. I think it's important that you do. We respect you a lot, and what you say matters. So please share it. Moving forward, if you have any ideas, let's share it with the world. And if there's other parents that you know would love to be part of this, let's make it happen.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love you guys, and I'm so thankful. I'm thankful for you. I'm thankful that we got the opportunity to do this, but also just I'm thankful you've been in our lives for the last 10 years, because I don't know where I'd be without Think.
Oh my gosh, you're definitely family.
Us too. Yeah,
you always get your Christmas card every year.
It matters.
Yeah, I mean, it's like very heartwarming, right? You are part of the family, and
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Oh, we love it. It's just the beginning.